The cheeks look great. The hair looked great. It all looked great. The finish looked great as well. Here he is, the one and only Paul Craig joining us. Hello, Paul. How are you?
Yeah, how you doing, man? It's been a while.
It has been a while. Where have you been? You're hard to track down.
I know I've just been hustling. I had to take myself away for absolutely everything in the last two fights, coming off back-to-back losses. I had to go away and reassess myself as an MMA fighter and assess myself where I need to go. Sat down with the management team, and one of the options was middleweight. It was something we'd spoke about in years. It's been about 11 years I have been in this sport. I just got a notification, like, it was at the weekend there. 11 years was my first fight. So as a light heavyweight, and we've always been, can we make middleweight? Is it something that's achievable? And what we did was we did the tests. We made sure it was possible to slim all the way down, and it worked. And it's been some adventure the last 6 months in my career, going from getting knocked out or technically knocked out in Rio to rebuilding myself back up to now becoming in the mix again with not only light heavyweights but middleweights now.
Yeah. And by the way, I love how we just jumped right into things. You're such a pro. You just gave me like 5 answers right there in the first hello. No, tremendous. So did you do a test cut? Like, did you go all the way down to 185?
We did. We went to the PI because originally, after January, when I was across the octagon for Johnny Walker, and I looked at him, I was like, "Whoa, he's a special man, isn't he? He's a freak of nature. He's like an outlier in the division because he's really, really tall, really athletic, and he hits like a train." So we had to reassess where we fitted in the division to light heavyweight. And one of the things we said was like, let's see if it's feasible to do middleweight. We go out to the PI, the guys run all the tests. What they found was, yes, we can make middleweight, and it's going to be safe at a safe level. You're going to have to slim down a little bit of muscle, and you're going to have to drop a lot of fat. And we had shown that we can do that on Friday morning. I was really, really skinny. As you said, the cheekbones, you look like you had grated cheese in there things. But then a few hours later, it's amazing what the body can do. Just after a couple of litres of water, following a scientific basis when we've done that, like through the support of the PI, as well as Boxing Science's Lee Rickards. And then from that, we were a different animal come Saturday night, and we bounced back further than we did as a light heavyweight. So once we made the weight to, I think we were 84.5 kg on the Friday morning, and by the time we went into the fight, we were 97 kg. That's heavier than what I was in fighting Johnny Walker in the start of January. I think I was 95 as I bounced back then, and then we're away up at 97. So you can see the benefits of doing it, right? I know that it's probably not the best thing to be doing at the age of 35, but you can understand why athletes do it. You can understand why guys make these huge cuts, because there's a huge advantage, and it showed on Saturday.
Wow. And so I just did the math here because I don't know it off the top of my head. So that's around 213 pounds you weighed on Saturday. So you gained like 30 pounds in a little over 24 hours.
30 pounds of sex appeal, man. That's a good number.
Fantastic. I wasn't sure if it was the hair. You know, the hair is looking so luscious these days. So, I mean, at least 5 pounds there, right?
I know somebody had just tweeted saying Paul's hair transplant looks brilliant, but somebody needs to tell me he needs to get the back finished. Because I'm obviously all balding at the back. It's like a losing battle. It's like dealing with the surf, you know, when the wave comes in, it constantly comes in and out.
Yes.
That's what's happening in the back. It's like a wave.
Are you going to do the whole thing? Because I know you were open about the front. Are you doing the whole thing? What's the plan?
Well, I've actually had here. I had the whole procedure where the front and the back was done. But the back's just one of these places where I'm constantly lining the mat, and so the back's just getting rubbed off on the back of the mat. So that is. Did
you do that whole thing like you went to Turkey and all that, like the other athletes?
Yeah, went to Turkey. It was maybe about, the whole process was only like a day or two, and then it was about 3 months, and I was back to full training. And it looks relatively good. I didn't realise how bad my hair was until it looks good. Whereas before I was just shaving it, I wasn't really paying much attention to it. But now I'm like, whoa, I've got some curls, and then as I grow it longer, I'll be that nice dew fro, which is pretty cool.
So why is Turkey, by the way, the epicenter of this stuff?
I don't know. I think it's the fact that they've got some of the best doctors in plastic surgery. So not only for hair transplants, but for everything. That's where quite a lot of people in Europe go. So it just became this kind of mecca for people to adapt themselves to look like how they want to.
Tremendous.
So I'm not a dentist. I don't think I'm going to go for anything else. I know some people probably say probably get the teeth, but I kind of like having a bit of character in my teeth.
Yeah. No, you don't need that. All right, we have a bit of a left turn there in the conversation, but going back to the weight cut, like Thursday night, Friday, at any point where you're like, fuck me, this is way too tough. Why did I do this? Did you ever question it?
No, I definitely didn't. Because as I said, when we did the fake weight cut, because I actually come all the way down to the weight, I made sure I can make it before we went to Mick Maynard and said, listen, Mick, we can make this. Because the last thing you want to be doing is basically messing about the UFC. Because I'm not going to say they would punish you, but the last thing you want to be doing is going back in your word and saying, listen, we can make 185, and then 2 months later being like, oh, by the way, we can't actually do that.
Yeah.
It's professional, and it's one of the things it's something I've never ever done. I've never ever missed weight. I've always been as professional as I possibly can. So during the fake cut, I did it as a fake cut gone wrong. So ideally, the weight was slightly heavier going into the weight cut that week. Body fat was slightly higher. Muscle mass was slightly higher. So it wasn't the best cut. It wasn't the A or the gold standard cut. It was probably like a few levels below that. And we made the weight. And then we done the performance. So I know what it's like at the absolute maximum I can go, where muscles are starting to cramp. So when it came to doing that on Thursday night, it was really, really easy. And as I said, having guys round about you, people who know what they're doing, because there's people out there who are probably thinking, oh, I can't maybe think about moving weight class. That's fine. But you need to have the right people around about you. You need to have a really good nutritionist. You need to have really good strength and conditioning coaches. You need to have support. Like, I couldn't have done this on my own. I was thinking about that as I was coming up the road on Saturday afternoon. I was like, if I didn't have the guys around about me, there's no way I'd have been able to do that. And if you think about it as an athlete, you try and have the best coaches for your striking, for your jiu-jitsu, for everything else. Why do you not do it with nutrition? Why would you just leave it up to chance? Like, oh, maybe I'll make 185. So I done it in a very, very safe and controlled manner. And we were very, very safe when it came to it.
By the way, how was your confidence going into the fight after the two losses? Were you questioning yourself? How are you feeling about yourself and the game and your spot in the sport?
Yeah, it's difficult. That is probably the mental clarity is very, very difficult after the two losses. And the way I did get beat the last time in London was for me trying to pull guard. You go to social media and see what all the posts are like, and it's not a very nice place to be after a loss like that. The confidence I took for that was, right, if Oezdemir isn't knocking me out, I don't think a 185 is going to knock me out. And then when I go to like the Johnny Walker fight, and I think, right, it wasn't my night. There's travel, Johnny Walker's massive, where there was other issues going on in the background with changing teams, all this kind of stuff. So, but I can put these two camps, the previous two camps with the losses, down to external factors. Not having a main coach, running the last year's London fight camp out of shed. Excuse me, because I run that pretty much with a few training partners in a shed in Scotland. Whereas now I've went to a higher level. I've been working with James Doolan, who was one of the top European athletes in MMA, and now he's a coach. So he's got some really, really good traits when it comes to MMA. He's super focused and probably hyper focused on areas like striking. So that's where I need to improve. So it made sense to go to James and have him make a better version of me with regards to footwork, being able to move in and out. As I said, he uses little taglines, and one of them is soft knees and good eyes. If you get soft knees and good eyes, you'll see everything coming and you'll be able to react. Even if it hits you, you'll still be able to deal with it as it's coming in. Like the head kick I on Saturday night, it was full on to the side of my head, but because I seen it coming, the body reacts and it's able to take that shot a little bit better.
Wow. And so you were training out of a shed for your last fight prior to this one.
Yeah.
Sheesh.
Yeah. So my teammate Chris Bungard, he's got a shed. It's matted, and we were going in there and we were running fight camp. And I'm talking, we had this was light heavyweight at this time, and I had 2 heavyweight training partners, and I had another 2 light heavyweight training partners. So there's 5 big dudes in this little tiny shed throwing down, and it was like literally fighting in a phone box. But it was, at the time, it was what I had, so we made do with it. And Chris Bungard, as I said, the Cage Warriors fighter, he ran a full camp for me. Ideally, you need more training partners, you need more coaches, you need more support. But it was pretty much the best we could do. So that was against Oezdemir last year in London. And I'm not going to say that if I had this, X, Y, and Z, there was a chance we'd have won that fight. That's not how this game works. This game works as, on that night, you lost. It doesn't matter about any external factors. You stepped into the octagon, knowing all your external factors, and you lost. So you can't just go like, but this could have happened and that could have happened. We don't live in the past or the buts and the maybes. Don't live in that. When you live in the moment.
So then you have this fight, you get this opportunity, you move down 25. And what about that start, the face-off there with Bruce Buffer in the middle? I mean, that's iconic stuff. What prompted all of that? You don't usually they try to separate you guys. This time they just let it be. And Bruce is in the middle there, and you guys like it felt like one of those old Pride stare downs. You know, it was the way they shot it too. What sparked that?
So I always like to take control of the octagon, right? Take that centre spot. When he calls my name, I like to experience everything about what's going on in that moment. The fans, Bruce Buffer. I love it. That's the part of the MMA I love. You know, the pageantry. I've said this to you before. Like, step onto when we step up and do the ceremonial weigh-ins, and he can get his face, and he can't actually do anything about it. I love all that. So when I go in there, I just want to experience absolutely everything in that octagon. And then he started walking forward, and I was like, "Oh, we're doing this. Let's go." So I'm not one to back down for the fight, and we were literally nose to nose. And you can see Bruce Buffer's got this little twinkle in his eye, and he was loving life. But what that did was that lifted London, because I think up until that point, through what I've heard from fans, through what I've heard from people watching, the show wasn't as explosive as previous shows have been in London. And my fight was kind of like a turning point for that. And obviously I won in the way I did win, and it was very exciting. And I think fans appreciate that from me. When I fight, I do put on a performance, and it doesn't matter if you're going to see me get knocked out or I'm going to be doing the submitting. It doesn't matter. I'm always involved in exciting fights. So after that, the place just kind of erupted, and then we had another few fights, and Tom went out and done his thing. So I think that's why they let it go as well, because they need a little bit of something in the air.
I love that you embrace the pageantry, like at the weigh-ins with the face paint and all that. Does a part of you wish that you could wear whatever you want, you can walk out with whatever you want? I know you've tapped into the world of pro wrestling. I'm going to ask you about that in a moment, but do you wish that you could show a little bit more of your personality, on fight week, at the event, in the arena, during the fight, etc.?
It's very difficult, because one of these things about showing so much of your actual personality, there's little bits that come out of me. Like, sometimes I'll say, and they'll be like, that's quite funny, and that's very close to my personality. But what you've got to remember is this is business at the end of the day, and the last thing you want to be doing is cutting these pro wrestling promos, because I grew up watching pro wrestling. I love it. The last thing you want to do is cutting them, and then it comes to your fight, and you kind of end up looking like a bit of a bum if anything goes wrong or it doesn't go the way you wanted it to go. Like saying, I'm going to knock this guy out in the third round, and he's going to feel power and steel and sex appeal. Like, that kind of stuff doesn't really cut in MMA, because you end up looking like a little bitch. But in pro wrestling, as we both love, it's absolutely tremendous, because you know who's getting the nod most of the time in the evening, so he can then cut these promos to then suit his narrative.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. I love the shot after the finish. It's almost like you needed a smoke after that. Like, you just kind of sat back and chill. What was going on in your mind after that? There's a great photo of, like, he's clearly out of it. You're just like taking a breath right after you finish him. You've seen this photo, I would imagine. It's a tremendous shot.
It's like all this emotion is inside you, and you've got to kind of control it. You know, your music brings emotion. For me personally, when I'm walking out there, there's this emotion. You've got to try and disguise it. The last thing you want to do is showing this emotion. And I'm not saying by showing emotion shows weakness, but when it's war and we're getting ready for war, it can show that there's a bit of weakness in there. So I never ever show any emotion as I'm walking out. And I watch back the fight, and I can see this little bit of, I take a look around, and I'm looking around the O2 Arena, and I can see my name, I can see the fans, I can see Scotland flags getting waved, I can hear my song, And as I walked there, everything just felt right. And then you go into this octagon, you have this really intense stare down, and then the fight then starts. And then everything just goes quiet. And the only thing you can hear is your coach. And then you go through your whole process, and then it's difficult. This motion keeps building up and building up and building up. And then you go through being Paul Beardew Craig winning the fight, and then as you sit down and you see that, you can see you totally change back to Paul Craig, and it's like this massive weight's just been lifted off your shoulders, and you sit down and it's like trying to take everything in, take in all the fans, take in that noise again. So that's what it is. It's just a changing from going through the Beardew to Paul back to Paul Craig.
And I would imagine a bit of a relief too, right? Considering how the last two fights went.
Yep, definitely. Like, you're always going to doubt your abilities, and especially going up against a high-level jiu-jitsu practitioner. As I said, he broke Jacare's arm. He did the same to he did it to somebody else, Eric Anders, I'm sure it was. So he's got really, really good grappling. And you're always doubting that, being a guy from Scotland, because in theory, I really shouldn't have this jiu-jitsu skill set I have. Growing up in Scotland and taking up the sport 10 years ago, when you consider people from Brazil are probably doing this for a very, very young age and are getting some high-level black belts. Like, only in the last 5 years has Scotland actually been giving out black belts to people in Scotland. So I think there was like 2 when I first started, 2 black belts in the whole of Scotland. And then when you think about it now, there's multiple black belts, so the skill set's getting much better. You're getting guys who are putting out lots more on social media, like Lachlan Giles, who has his meta. So all this kind of stuff helps me improve as an athlete. And as I said, you're down your abilities up against some Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He did have sneaky moves with his feet. He was very, very technical. But one of the things my coach said to me was, he was like, don't turn this into a pure Jiu-Jitsu match. Don't have this as a gentleman's agreement where we'll just roll. You know, when we go to the ground, it'll be rolling. He went, make it ugly. Be nasty. Be horrible. Drop the elbows. If he's holding one wrist, you double up and you blast him with your hand. And it showed that my style works. It's very effective in MMA as opposed to just being a straight jiu-jitsu guy.
I heard you reference this in the post-fight press conference, and I was wondering, I was like, man, we all, I think, to a degree, deal with imposter syndrome. Am I good enough? Should I be here? And you were talking about that as far as your jiu-jitsu is concerned. And I was like, man, does Paul Craig doubt his jiu-jitsu? Like, does he feel like he is worthy of the praise that he receives? Because we have often praised your jiu-jitsu, especially how good you are off your back. And it seemed like you have, like, people have been saying that has been your forte, and you in your mind have said, like, I don't know if I'm that good. You have dealt with imposter syndrome as far as your jiu-jitsu is concerned.
Yep, jiu-jitsu and MMA. As I said, 10 years in this sport, it's not a very, very long time. When you've got guys who are learning this, like, when I look at the guys in the gym now, and they're like coming to the gym when they're 10 years old and they're learning the sport. So I feel like maybe I'm not good enough. And it's always in there in the back of your mind, you know. And then it's like somebody will be like, Paul Craig's jiu-jitsu is fantastic. And then there's just that little creeping thing in the back of the mind says, aye, but who have you fought who's good at jiu-jitsu? Like Jamal Hill. Like, I'm not saying he's not a great jiu-jitsu practitioner, but at that point, everybody was writing off Jamal Hill's jiu-jitsu. So although I had this really, really effective jiu-jitsu submission over Jamal Hill, people were doubting it. And then I was doubting it. And then you then go see him put a pace on Glover Teixeira, who's one of the greatest jiu-jitsu practitioners in the light heavyweight division. And then that little bit of doubt in your mind then starts to subside a little bit. And then it's like, who have you beat, Paul? And you're like, well, I beat Jamal Hill. And then that little voice can then say, aye, but Jamal Hill doesn't have jiu-jitsu. Because then that voice then says, aye, but he does, because look what he done to Glover. A very good jiu-jitsu practitioner. And it's just that kind of stuff where you're having these internal battles with yourself. And it's part of the sport, and I imagine that everybody does it, and maybe not everybody speaks about it, but you're always going to doubt your abilities. You're always going to doubt, have you done enough? And I've found myself in the gym as well as in fights, like recalling moments. Like, one of the things that we did at the PI was we did the 6 seconds alactic threshold test to show how much power you've got. Now, I set the record in the PI for that. So anytime I'm worried about, I'm going to gas, this is one of the things I bring up. Yeah, but you're the fittest guy in the whole UFC. Doesn't matter. You're the fittest guy. At 6 seconds, you set the record in the PI. And I've got all these wee kind of things that I say to myself to kind of stop these doubts from creeping in massively.
you also mentioned after the fight that you're not done at 205. Why would you even consider 205 if you had this great success at 185?
I believe, although the great success was 185, like I've still got victories over Jamal Hill, as I said, and Ankalaev, Krylov as well. Like some really, really tough names in that division. Like I can still hang with these guys. What was massive in this fight here was not only was it moving to 185, yet that played into a positive for me, but there was also the fact that I've now got a coach who is a phenom at striking. So he's now passing on this knowledge to me. And that was the reason why he's seen Paul a much better version of himself, because you're like, right, Paul can actually strike now. He looks a little bit more confident after 6 months of working with James. So 6 months later, what's he going to be like? What's his skill set going to be like for striking at takedowns? And the reason that takedown was so effective with the double leg against Andre Muniz was because I was able to set it up with strikes rather than taking a shot, a blind shot, and not putting anything in front of it. That's why I think 205 is still not done. Because if I can do that till 185, with 6 months of coaching with James Doolan, now what can we do with a year of coaching with James Doolan or 2 years coaching with James Doolan? As I've said previously, like my number was 35. That number's totally blown out the window now. I believe I'm going to be like closer to 45 by the time I finish. I love this sport, and as long as I keep getting better, I'm going to keep fighting. As long as I'm not losing my mind with regards to slowing down physically and slowing down mentally, I will keep doing this sport.
So your next fight, 185 or 205?
It's depending with the UFC. If the UFC come and say, listen, Paul, we've got a really nice fight for you at 205. And when I say a really nice fight, I don't care about, we've got an easy fight for you, Paul. That's not what I'm in. I'm not interested in having easy fights. What I'm interested in is having fearful fights, fights that keep you, like, make you wake up at night and question, have you done enough? They're the fights I want. So, like, a fight against one of the top fives, like, listen, Paul, you're fighting against Prohaska. You need to be switched on when you're fighting him. They're the kind of fights I want. Like, even if you think, right, Paul, you don't deserve a fight with Prohaska, or whatever you think I fit in that division, what I want is the kind of fights will take me closer to the belt, be it as a 185er or a 285er. And that's the same for 185. I'm only going to take fights that are going to progress me in my career. I still believe, and I know there's people out there probably thinking that, well, you're not a title contender, you're a journeyman, or you're a gatekeeper, whatever it is you want to call me. I believe I've still got it in me. And the minute I stop believing that I'm going to be anywhere near that belt, it's the minute I'm going to step away from the sport. So as long as I keep believing in myself and believing that I'm going to have gold one day, and I'll keep doing it.
What if they ask you what you want to do? What would be your answer?
That's difficult because, there's really, really favourable fights for me in light heavyweight, and there's favourable fights for me in 185. I know I had obviously mentioned that Bo Nickall was an interesting fight because I don't think a lot of people want to fight him. He's getting a bit of a name about him, right? He's not a ranked opponent, but it still sort of gives me an edge with regards to his wrestling ability and my jiu-jitsu ability. That kind of fight excites me. There's I love the Sean Strickland idea. Like, I know he's fighting for the title, but I just love the way he fights. Like, I'm a fan of how he fights. I might not be a fan of him as a person or his personality and what he's trying to sell as a UFC athlete, but I'm a fan of how he fights. Like, he's a wild man. He's ready to bang. That's the kind of fights I want to be involved in. I want to be involved in exciting fights as a I want to have like some sort of legacy. Like Michael Bisping gets inducted to the Hall of Fame, and everybody stands up and you hear his music. And that's what I want. I want that kind of legacy. I want to be like a champ. I want to be in the Hall of Fame. I want to walk up these stairs at the UFC PI and see a picture of myself and have like my record and all that kind of stuff. That's what I do this sport for. I don't do this sport for financial gain. Like, it's nothing. That thing's never ever focused me to be an MMA fighter. The reason I want to be an MMA fighter is because I was a loser as a kid. I was a loser as a teenager. I was a loser as an adult. I found something there where I could be a winner. And as long as I keep pushing them, I'm going to be a winner as an MMA.
What do you mean by loser? Like, how big of a loser were you? Like, when you say loser, do you mean like just someone with no friends, or do you mean like a troublemaker, like someone who would, just do stupid things?
Not a troublemaker, as in like I wasn't like trying to shoot up MD, or I wasn't trying to like start fights in the street. I'm talking like a loser who like I have a close group of friends. I'm still very, very friendly with the guys I went to high school with. I've got two, like when I'm saying two high school friends, they're the guys who will message me, and no matter what's happening in my life, I'll always pick up messages to them because I've got loads of love for them. So it's stuff like like that's how much I lose with him, I'll tell you right now. Buying Lord of the Rings swords, like I bought Galamring, the Lord of the Rings sword,
Okay.
painting figures, this kind of stuff. When I say a loser, I know people are going to be like, well, does that make me a loser because I'm doing that? What I'm meaning is I was never ever going to amount to nothing as a kid.
Okay.
I was never ever going to amount to nothing as a teenager. I'm never going to amount to anything as an adult, and I've found something where I can amount to something. And it's MMA. And if there's anybody listening to this and they feel the exact same way, you just have to find the thing that makes you and keep pushing. And the thing I found was MMA, and I found I was really good at it. So I'm going to keep pushing. I want to be a winner, as I said, to break that cycle of being a loser.
Do you think the UFC would do that Bo Nickall fight?
I don't know, because as the narrative goes, they obviously like what Bo Nickall's selling. They like the fact that he's this high level wrestler, and he's getting people showing him massive amounts of love. So do you want to put him in with myself? Because although people might think, oh, Bo Nickall would beat Paul Craig, but there's still that element of, but Paul Craig's quite sneaky. Paul Craig is a boogeyman anywhere he goes. Like, even when Paul Craig's meant to be getting beat in fights, he can sometimes just bring it back. So I don't think the UFC is something they'd be interested in doing if they're trying to build Bo Nickall as an athlete. I know the UFC probably aren't going to build me. I'm 35. I sound like a broken record here. Like, just feel sorry for me, but you know what I mean? I'm 35. I'm coming to the end of my career. I'm probably not going to be the guy that's going to put their eggs in the basket. You know, there's young, up-and-coming guys who are going to try and push, and they're going to try and make superstars. That guy's not me. And that's probably why they won't give me that fight. I'm just going to, I'm a company man. I'm just going to wait and see who the UFC offer me. And that's how I've always been.
We have seen people, enjoy success in the latter portion of their career. I mean, Michael Bisping is one as well who got the belt towards the end. So don't sell yourself short. You were one of the most popular fighters on the card. The crowd exploded for you. Everyone loves you. Everyone loves to follow you. And now also, by the way, you're transitioning to pro wrestling, as I said earlier. Are you the tag team champion for, let me get this right, is it ICW? Is it Insane Championship Wrestling? What is going on over here? I saw this other thing where you were like in this Royal Rumble thing. We're going to show it now. What is happening here? You're a pro wrestler? I didn't know about this.
So me and my teammate, Chris Bungard, as I said, we're on a podcast called Leather Podcast as well. And it's just something that me and him have always enjoyed. We've always enjoyed doing it. So he's my tag team partner. As I said, he is the Cage Warriors lightweight fighter, and he's got a fight coming up in the next few months in Newcastle. But it's just something we enjoy. So we're the ICW tag team champs. Is Scottish indie wrestling. Some of the guys like Drew Galloway came through there, and there's some big names who went from ICW to fight in the NXT. As I say, this is not like a career for me. I do stuff because I enjoy it, and I enjoy getting to spend time with Chris. So I got a guest spot to come on the Royal Rumble, and it was brilliant. It's exhilarating, and you get caught up in the moment, and the fans are amazing. Like, you can see in my face like how much I enjoy this. And then me and Chris then went and fought against two studs who had the belt, and we ended up winning in a submission match, which is brilliant. So I'm going to keep doing that because now this fight's done with now, and then I think the next event's going to be, I think it's called Shog's House Party, because remember it's a Scottish wrestling organisation, and who knows, we're going to defend our tag team titles. Who knows if we win, lose or draw? But it's going to have to be somebody who's deadly to take the belts off us.
You look like a natural out there. I saw you're doing like all the mannerisms, the moves. You're wearing the gloves. Did you take any classes, or was that all off the cuff?
It's kind of all off the cuff. It's just it's because I've watched it for so many years as a kid. What I did, they invited me. This was years ago. I'd not long been a UFC fighter, and I accidentally broke somebody's jaw. Not my finest moment. I was to punch him in the side of the neck, and as I hit him, It caught him right in the side of the jaw, and I snapped his jaw.
Oh my gosh!
I know but that's wrestling. Sometimes bad stuff can happen in wrestling, and that's why I've got to be very, very careful leading into a fight, because something can happen. Maybe somebody slips, a move goes wrong, or maybe hurt the back of my neck. It might be like a cut, it might be something like that. So you've got to be very, very careful with regards to pro wrestling. But yeah, that was my first experience at pro wrestling. I had ended up accidentally breaking a guy's jaw. But this time now, as with my tag team partner, we're going to be a phenom in the wrestling world.
It's tremendous.
We need to have a faction name. We need like a tag team name. I've got one.
Have you ever met Drew McIntyre?
No, I have not. I've not met him, but he's meant to be a lovely guy, and obviously he's Scottish, so we get behind our own. I'd love to meet him.
Yeah, he's tremendous as well. He enjoys MMA too, so that would be cool if you're able to meet him. By the way, I was going to ask you about Chris Duncan painting his face. Annoy you a little bit?
No, not really. I think it's like, obviously I've mentioned it before. The only thing I didn't want to do was the two of us walking out with face paint. I just think it looks a bit silly, like the two of us doing it. Like, one of you should really do it if we're on the same card, mate. But it's not one of these things. It's not like I'm waking up and thinking, fuck Chris Duncan, man, wearing face paint. Like, I don't own the rights to face paint. Like, Kuti Blaba's done it. Kamara Usman's done it. So it's not as if I own it. But I guess he's Scottish. He's proud of being Scottish, and everybody's a Mike Perry fan, and that's what it obviously comes to, Mike Perry. So
that's incredible. P.T. Carroll told me that story last week. I had no idea that it came from Mike Perry. Mike Perry was the one who told you that you should paint your face, and that's why you do it.
He's absolutely wild, Mike Perry. Like the full story, like he was because he's super intense, Mike. But the fact is, I'm walking down the street after I've had my face painted. This was in Sacramento. I'm walking down the street, and he's in like the hotel bar area, and there's a fire exit, and he kicks the door open. Like, as I'm walking down the street, he kicks this door open and he shouts, "Let's go, Scotland!" at the top of his lungs, right? But the fire alarm's activated because he's booted the door open, and behind him, he's standing in this doorway like this. The fire alarm's going off, making all this noise, and I'm like, oh my God, man, what's going on here? Because this is my first experience in the UFC. That was my very first. And if it wasn't for Mike Perry, we wouldn't have any crazy Paul Craig wins.
That is amazing. Scotland next year, what are you hearing? What are they telling you?
See, I would love Scotland. Now that we're starting to build a bit of a name for ourselves, as you were talking about just before I came on, that I think they're maybe oversaturating the market in London. Twice a year is too much in there. And there isn't much better venues than London. I understand why they do London, because it's an easier hub to get to, but it's easy enough to fly up to Glasgow. As you said, Newcastle's an option. There's Ireland as well. But I think Bellator have got like a non-compete clause in Ireland, so they can't actually use the Three Arena. I heard talk about Liverpool as well. One of the reasons that Marks and Spencers don't want to have MMA in there is because if you let the UFC in, then you have to let every other promotion in. And there may be, obviously Liverpool, there may be some dodgy MMA coming around about the Liverpool area because of where it's situated. And that's why Marks and Spencers don't want MMA being allowed in there. It's not UFC, it's all MMA. And that's why they stopped them out. But Glasgow, the last time they were there, they blew the roof off the place. You remember them being like some of the greatest crowds that the UK have got. So why not? As I said, we've got like 4 fighters there, including myself, Chris Duncan, Joanne Calderwood, and Casey O'Neill. And who knows, we probably all could just do the face paint, everybody's just coming up into the ceremonial weigh-ins with face paints and bits of tartan. But I do believe there's opportunities to run a fight night in Glasgow. I can't see why not. Paul Craig at 185 headlining it is sounds good to me. Not even me. There's other people there you can put in there. It doesn't have to be a Scottish fighter that you put in there. It can be a UK fighter. And the Europe and UK talent now is just going through the roof.
And perhaps your teammate, Chris Bungard, could fight on that card as well if it happens in the next few months and he's able to go. Delighted for you, Paul. Congratulations on the win. You look fantastic out there. And I hope that this is the beginning of a nice run at 85. And as you said, I mean, you've got some pretty huge names on your resume at 205 as well. So I'm curious to see, you've got options now. You've got 205 and 185. So it's a great place to be. I'm so happy that you're back on track. Thank you for coming on. Appreciate it very much. Enjoy the victory, my friend.
Thank you, my friend. I'll speak to you soon.
All right, there he is, the one and only Paul Craig.